OPSEC online. You probably hear it all the time on the internet if you're interested in cybersecurity at least. Um, so I don't know how to go next. What is OPSEC? I actually can't see this, but so OPSEC, yeah, it's coined by the U.S. military. It started from the U.S. military, and it originated during the Vietnam War. More specifically, the U.S. They were really wondering why all of their air bombings were like not being as destructive as they wanted. They were bombing the places they wanted to bomb, but like the Vietnam soldiers were always relocating, and they always managed to avoid the worst of the damages. And so the U.S. underwent an investigation. They tried to find out what was going on, where was the information being leaked, uh, and they thought initially that everything was okay. They had encrypted communications for sensitive details, but one thing that they didn't realize or didn't pay too much attention to is OPSEC, what they call OPSEC. And that's basically preventing your adversary from knowing what's going on your side. So what was happening during the Vietnam War, at least, was there was actually help from other multiple countries as well, like from China as well. And there were also problems with ComSec, which is communications security. They were using unencrypted telephone lines to send information about like operation status, which isn't like vital information. And but there was also like stuff like logistics that were being tracked, and that also conveyed a lot more detail. And there was also stuff like there were also foreign nationals with access to army airfields, and in that airfield itself, there was like a lot of like secret communications. There were like intel being passed on and stuff that was being developed in that area as well. So that also was a source of information leak. The actual document itself, talking about the origin of OPSEC, is this document right here. It's declassified, but a lot of the interesting stuff was whited out. And so it only gives you like a glimpse of what OPSEC really is. It doesn't really go into too much detail. But one thing that they had in there that was pretty interesting was the origin of OPSEC. Really, it's just the element of surprise, and that's actually one of the most important things in terms of war, at least, and that's where operations security is important. Stuff like it was important in stuff like the Battle of Trenton, where basically if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the Battle of Trenton was where the U.S. The militia group, right? It wasn't called U.S. at the time, but the militia group, like they had a lot of they were good at keeping their secrets, and so they managed to like outmaneuver Englishmen. I don't know what I should call them, redcoats. I don't know, but they managed to outmaneuver them and bring them heavy damages. Um, and there was also like a bad case, a case of an example of bad OPSEC, and it's you probably heard about Paul Revere and his midnight ride. But basically, the Englishmen were like setting up like artillery. They were bringing in like supplies, uh, and the people just living there knew about it. Like they saw that, and word spread. And so that's how the militiamen also knew about it, and that's why they moved closer inland. And that's where Paul Revere, there's the stuff with like the lighthouse or whatever, the light lantern thing, and them blinking a single like a signal stating that like oh the Englishmen are or the troops are arriving, and that's basically an example of bad OPSEC where that really hurt an attempt to surprise the enemy or to give them advantage. And so that's the origin of OPSEC. But what does it really mean when it comes to OPSEC now, or in this case, OPSEC in business? So OPSEC in business if you talk about OPSEC, you think about preventing information leak from your adversary, right? In this case, who are your adversaries? And keep in mind what we're trying to prevent stuff from happening. Like, and in the case with businesses, it's really we're talking about infosec. We're talking about information and keeping confidential information about like the business. Like, for example, if you have a secret recipe, you want to keep that a secret. If you're like sharing passwords, you want to keep that a secret. Like, and stuff like customer information. Those are all the things that you want to keep secret. And you can potentially expose that by having bad OPSEC. And so, and also with OPSEC, there's stuff like, you can be vulnerable to OSINT attacks, where people can look up stuff about the employees and employees spear phishing to try to impersonate an employee or a staff and send out phishing emails that are more. It's a lot more effective when it's personal and it contains insider information, at least you would imagine. And so, good OPSEC habits in the business settings. It's basically monitoring behavior, social habits on social media, not sharing login credentials via email and text. And believe me, a lot of people send passwords over email, and they have it like on a post-it note somewhere. And like a third party, like custodian worker or some just disgruntled employee could look at it and be like, okay, yep, I'm gonna log in onto their computer or computer system, impersonate them, and do a lot of stuff that's bad. Um, and so there's also stuff like the principle of least privileges. Basically, don't give everyone admin on your systems. Make sure that the permissions you give them is the bare minimum of what they need to do. And this is actually really, really helpful in a lot of situations, especially when they're being attacked. For example, you don't want to give like an attacker a malware that has access to a computer, full access on the get go. That would be pretty bad. There's also like stuff like dual control, separating network users from the security team. And if you imagine, if they're the same team, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and there's no self check. There's no self checking process. There's stuff like automation. A lot of security errors come from human errors, right? Really, it's just that it's the people that are the problem. So if you automate a lot of the process, there's less chances for error. And then there's also planning for disaster. If in case you do get into a breach, what do you do? There's logging, network segmentation, restricting device access. Don't allow anyone to just plug into an Ethernet port and get access to your network. Right? The school actually. They only have it so that you can't just plug in a random computer to their Ethernet ports. It won't let you. It won't accept it. They have specific whitelisted MAC addresses. So only those that are recognized, at least in the school, can actually use their network. And also the same applies for the Wi-Fi network too. You can't just into the Wi-Fi using some random password. You need to have like your username and password, enterprise level credentials as well to log in, and stuff like that. There's probably a lot more. I don't know if should this be interactive. What are some other things that could be good habits for the business settings? Is there anything that I didn't include? I wonder. Resetting passwords, yeah, keeping good, yeah, credentials, credential habits. Um, because if something does get leaked somehow, you still want to make it expire. Yeah, those are yeah, that's a really good habit. Key factor, yeah, definitely, yeah. These are all good. And then so when thinking about OPSEC, there is something called the OPSEC procedure. These are a bunch of steps to think about when actually creating a plan. This basically this goes for the military as well when they're creating an OPSEC plan. This goes for your personal life, your business OPSEC. And the first step is to identify all the sensitive information. For example, they can be anything from product research, customer data, employee data, financial statements, et cetera, et cetera. And then part two is to identify the threats. So who are the threats? Are they, like third parties, uh, contractor employees? Are they like disgruntled employees, significant other, X? I don't know. They could be threats as well. Uh, Number three, you have to analyze and your vulnerabilities and the security holes. So what sort of think about where the security holes are, what can be exploited in the system that you have, the current procedures that you're running right now. And then step four is to appraise those or silent risk levels. So which one is more important? Which hole is bigger than the other? some security risks will be bigger than other security risks. And step 5 would be to create countermeasures. So to overcome those security holes, what do you have to do? And some of the examples that I listed there are updating software, training employees to not have post-it notes of their passwords, or plug in a random USB lying around. Stuff like that. Oh, stuff about, if you're wondering about why you shouldn't plug in a random USB, if you've ever heard of something called rubber duckies, they can type in they emulate a keyboard, but an automated keyboard where they type in a bunch of malicious scripts to do anything. Well, they have physical access. What can't they do, right? And this is probably my personal favorite part. Hey, personal. Okay, anyway. um, but it's OPSEC for private life. So it's, of course, especially useful when you're at high risk for harassment, stalking, doxing. And the steps apply the same for all OPSEC procedures. So what are your sensitive information that you want to protect? Can include your real name, address, maybe email address, phone number. Those are pretty stuff. Those are stuff you want to keep private. Uh, Mostly, probably, I think, in my opinion, it'd be address. And that's when physical security is really important, at least to me and to most people. Uh, and okay, so part 2 of that would be to identify your threats. Who are the threats? They could be internet users. If you talk to people on Discord, they can be like random people that you don't really know about. But maybe they found your work on GitHub and they want to know more about you. Or maybe you're like, maybe someone thinks you're really pretty and or handsome or whatever, and they want to stalk you, right? So those are potential risks. There's also like web services. They can either be malicious, right? They can intentionally mine all your information to use it for malicious purposes, or they could get breached. And due to the data breach, well, that would leak all your information to people you probably don't want to have it leaked to. That's stalker. Number 3 is analyzing vulnerabilities. So this is just one example. There's a whole bunch of other examples, and you can probably go over it. We'll actually go over it more in detail on a later slide. But a school directory is an example. For example, if you know your school, if you know someone else's school, and if you know their name, most schools have a directory system. And in that directory system, it tells you their full name. So if you have a first name and you know their major, for example, you can probably find out their full name. You can probably find out their email address. Or you can probably, look up their email address and find a page on LinkedIn. And from that LinkedIn, you can probably find a page on like with their physical like address, maybe for example, or their phone number, or wherever they worked. And if they worked at somewhere, they can call the boss back and say, hey, did you have a employee named so and so here who worked here, and try to like, this person's trying to like work at my place. I want to see if if they're legitimate, if they were a good employee, and it's all these like steps that add on to each other that create a comprehensive risk for your identity. Of course, most people wouldn't really want to do that unless they're intentionally targeting you. Um, but it's stuff like that to keep in mind in case, especially if you're at high risk, that's something that you really want to do. But even if you're just like an everyday user, you probably want to keep stuff like this in mind just a little bit to make it a little bit difficult for your target to find you. For example, you can definitely find me if you really wanted to, but also I'm not too much at a high risk either. I'm not doing anything really suspicious or something that would get people mad, at least, or target me intentionally. Number 4 would be risking those security holes. So we talked about like school directory. We can also talk about stuff like like church directory. If you've gone to church, they probably have like a directory on you. Yellow pages, for example, might have information on you, and you would have to like think about all these risks and rank them. Uh, Stuff like like web services, you would place, oh, okay, what's the risk level? Like what happens if this gets leaked, if this becomes known to the target? Um, what how much information can they obtain from that? These are all risks. Um, and then number 5 for that would be having countermeasures. So oh, this is copied and pasted, but I guess for countermeasures for these would be like not having, you know, you can also opt out of the school directory, for example. You can opt out of the church directory, or you can maybe, I don't know if this is legal or not, but you can change your preferred name. That would update that, or stuff like this. But you can always create countermeasures or mitigate it somehow. So I guess like we can take this in a more interactive format. But let's find out what are some sensitive information. So I listed out full name and address as the prime thing, the prime information to protect. Because I think personal security is very, very important. But like, or physical security. But what else? What could there be that might be sensitive? Credit card, bank account, yeah. Oh yeah, date of birth, yeah. Phone number, yep. Phone number is important. What about if they, prank call you or something? I have a whole story to tell about like of someone finding out. So okay, actually, I had two scam attempts on me personally. It's an anecdote, um, personal anecdote. But one was okay. So someone called saying that they were from like gym, or they're from some gym membership. They knew my full name, and they knew my phone number. And so like, hey, is this me? And then they said my name, and I was like, yes, who is this? And they're like, they said that they were from gyms, and they're like, hey, you owe us $200. And well, for one, I've never stepped foot in a gym in my life, so I knew that this was fake. uh, and so I don't know, I normally just hang up, but I try to get funny and like, hey, I had never signed up for a gym like ever in my life, so well, what's the big deal? Why are you trying to like scam call? And I know I probably should have I probably should have hung up in retrospect, but I did that, and they started getting aggressive, uh, uh, and so I started getting aggressive back. I said, "Hey," because at that time, like I knew about like white pages, and I knew about like how to reverse phone numbers, and so like I was like, I said, "Hey," I said their name just like there, as if like it was a part of their caller ID, and then they started saying their name. Um, they started they started saying my name, and they started like saying like how like threatening me like physically, right? But like and so I got scared. First of all, I hung up. I checked all like the people directory, like that's them, my pages to see if my information was there. And it was there, but on most websites it didn't include the actual address. It only had the city. But some sites did. I was just hoping that they couldn't find that. But nothing really came out of that. They didn't really do anything, but they ended up like using a free prank call service. And so like they started, I started getting like random prank calls. Like they're like stuff like like those like fake pre-made dating breakup or like pizza delivery prank calls that you order, like you use on some website with free credits to prank call like your friend. Well, I knew it was a prank call because at the end, like, hey, visit www.prankcall.com or something like that to prank your friends. I'm like, okay, wow, this is a really incredible timing. Like, why did I get this prank call all of a sudden? And so, yeah, that's one example of why you shouldn't have your phone number just so publicly, out there. Another attempt was actually at my dad personally. So something about medical records, but they knew my name and they said that I went to a hospital at this time, which was false. They're like, hey, can you? We didn't get the deposit or whatever money they needed, and it sounded totally legitimate. I was in the car with them, and I didn't go to a hospital at that time, so I knew it wasn't legitimate. But no, I had to second guess myself too. Like I didn't like first go like, huh, I like it sort of like gaslighted me in a way, like because it sounded so like authentic and legitimate that like maybe I did go to the hospital. I just can't remember it. But no, I checked everything, and I was in the car, and thankfully they wanted they wanted my dad to verify my date of birth. I guess well, no, actually, I think they had that. They had the date of birth, and they're like, okay, is this? I was born in 2000, so like, hey, is this person born in 2000? My dad was like, yeah. Then so your payment didn't go through. Would you mind sending in your credit card information over the phone? Uh, and it sounded legitimate, but it makes you wonder. If you have your name, your phone number, like your phone number and your date of birth, um, with the online people directory, you can see all the relatives of your family. So if, for example, you see my name, but like on the tab in the page, or there's like a little section that has like possible relatives, and behold, there was my dad's name and my mom's name, and from that, I guess like if you have your name and your date of birth, my date of birth was exposed on. I managed to remove my information on most of the websites, but some are still out there. One because like I'm not that much at risk, and two, I'm lazy. It's a lot of work and there's a lot of websites to go through. But there's actually a whole like list of websites out there that people will compile so that you can go into each one and remove yourself from the directory. But yeah, that scam call was it was a really nice attempt at getting a credit card information. And I presume that if all you have is like someone's like phone number, or if you have their name and their state or their city, you could search up all the information and you could find out their parents. You can call their parents and you do the same prank call or the same scam call, and it probably would be really successful. It would probably have a really high success rate, assuming that information has their information. So yeah, those are all sensitive information. Yep, yep. Yeah. But they knew my birthday, but they wanted confirmation. Is this something 2000? And they're like, yeah. My dad was like, yeah, because you tend to believe stuff like that if they have like information on you in the first place to begin with, right? Because confirming is a lot less work and stressful, and it makes you less hesitant to do something if you're just saying yes or no. So number two, in your personal life, what are your threats? Is it your ex? Is it internet users with malicious intent? Are they web services? Um, what else? What are some other potential threats? Do we have anything in mind? Where could we find some threats? We can go. We can be specific too. Well, one thing that I just talked about that I didn't put in here, I guess like scam calling. Those scam callers they're realistic threats, and if it's easy to search information about you, they can have a lot more to work with, right? If you play games online, if you make someone mad, if you wreck them, yeah, if you have their for example, a lot of people like they have their like Steam profile, and in their Steam profile they have their like social media, and in their social media, hey, this is my phone number, hey, add me, new friends, new phone number, hey guys, and yeah, from that, if your social media is not privated, you can glean all that information. Yeah, gaming. Are there anything else? There's probably a lot more, but like what are some things that we can come up with? Hmm. Foreign interference from the government. So the government is a threat? Maybe. It's funny. This is being recorded, so oh well. Yeah, I mean, I guess foreign governments, maybe. Russia. Yeah. Companies, yeah. I guess same concept with government. Coworkers. Previous coworkers, yeah. People who are jealous, have some enmity with you. I don't know, stuff like that. I think that covers like a lot of the examples. So yeah, analyzing vulnerabilities slash security holes. Why I accented the H there. Okay. There's the school directory has potential has your name and email for sure. Something to create your phone number and address. You like to put that on there. You would have to actually put it in. At least if that's the case with Auburn. There's stuff like community directory, yellow pages, church directories. Same issue with the above. Yeah, people search like that's them. True. Like white pages. There's a lot of websites. Uh, okay, we can do an example actually right after we go. But there's like LinkedIn, social media. I can have a lot of your personal information, name, email address. What else? What does your LinkedIn have? Jobs, yeah, previous jobs. Those that's a lot of information. From that, from the like your job list, they can kind of like guesstimate your income too, maybe. Yes. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Same goes for social media too. If you post like a picture of like some place, hey, this is where I am at the moment, right? Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure like which social media is that. Sure. I thought you were talking about like location, like you're connected from this location. I guess connection, yeah. In terms of that, yeah, they can see like who you're friends with. And then they can do also they can find out more information about your friend, which is also bad for them, but also bad for you because they can find more information about you from their friend. And can you guarantee that all your friends will not be like fished? That they won't provide information about you if prompted? I mean, I can say most of my friends will be suspicious, but like, can you guarantee that all of your friends won't give detail about you if they're asked? So yeah, like references are if you pretend to be a reference, right, then you can get a lot of information from your friend that way. What are some other techniques of getting information from a friend? Like stuff like, hey, you know this person from like this school. If for example, if you have like if they go to a common school, they can like, hey, remember this guy? I don't know. That's an example. Huh? Right? I know your parents are older, typically like less tech savvy, will generally be more. Yeah, yeah. I guess it'd be really weird if if you just called them up and like, hey, remember this guy? That's old boomer. Yeah, it's a really like old thing to do. But yeah, I mean, we can just think about all the stuff that all the ways you can get information from friends, and so that's one thing to really keep in mind. For example, if you post your Instagram, right? Even if you have like an anonymous like Instagram account, uh, probably you follow that Instagram account with your original account or with like your maybe some of your real life friends. And what one thing that you can try to do theoretically, if you're like if someone has like an online profile and a real life profile, most people have actually have like multiple accounts. Well, I'm not sure about most, but some people have multiple accounts for their online identity and their real life identity. Um, but if you can like check out all their friends list. You can do this for Instagram, but check out like what location most of these friends are from, and if most of these friends, okay, maybe it doesn't work if you have like 3,000 followers or something, but like if you have like 200 followers, you can see like 50 of those followers come from the same city. Oh my goodness, or they come from the same school, then you can find out more information about them, even if um, they on the profile doesn't contain too much. And web services, depends on what kind of web service it is. Like if it's like I don't well, sometimes web services they want you to put in your name, your phone number, your address, all that. Also, I think for the past 20 websites I've registered, I put in like fake addresses and phone numbers and nothing happened. They never so what something funny I do is I when I register websites, like for example, if I'm like registering onto like for a website called Contabo, right? I put my first name Enoch, then Contabo, to say okay, and then maybe like if they distribute my email to like a spam list or whatever, it'll say hey Contabo, and then I can see oh yeah, so this is where the information got leaked, and I know to stay away. The same you can do the same with email address. But yeah, risk appraisal. This is what I came up with, but really it doesn't really matter. It's about your information and what you believe for your personal life. I put school director at 6. You know, I don't. really care too much about my Auburn email. It's not really linked to too many things other than school things. Um, community directory, I put that at a higher risk, but then the list I'm in and the church I go to, they're really small. So like I don't think it's a high risk. It has a lot of information, but it's not like a 10 like risk. That's them. I put that at 10 because I found my information and I went to my friends. You can try this actually today, maybe if you want. Uh, there's LinkedIn. I put that at 9, high risk. Web services. I put that at a 7. If they get leaked, or the services themselves might leak a lot of information. So yeah, here are the potential countermeasures. How do you? I put this in parentheses, but it's really common sense. You just have to think about it. You have to be cognizant of, okay, could this be a potential issue? For me, it comes naturally because like I'm naturally more of a private person, so I end up thinking about this like naturally. But for some people, they're really used to just putting all their information just out there. They would have to do like a whole mentality shift to really think about it. But really, it's really just thinking about it, just relying on your senses, on your instincts. So, school directory. What are some countermeasures? You could not share your school, for example, to other people. Um, think about like Discord IRC. Are you just like telling other people? Well, then about you don't tell them about it. Or are you taking a picture of yourself? Your school logo, for example. I have my sweater on. If I take a picture with this, hey, you can probably guess that I'm from. Right? You can opt out. Same with community directories. Or you can just not reveal your city to people you meet online, or use fake generic names like Susan or Alex. I like to use Tim. Really, I tell people like when I go to restaurants, I actually because my name is actually pretty hard to like spell and pronounce. Well, it's easy to pronounce if you hear it, but if you see it on paper, it's like they do a double take like what And if you like even if you say it like if I say it the first time, if I say it really fast, like then people will because it's not a common name. People will like do a double take like, hey, what did you just say? I said okay, just 2 hours ago. I told them, hey, so my name, I said it's Enoch. Uh, but the it's Enoch. I guess I said that really fast, and they said they asked me, It's Enoch? So that's what they asked me, and so yeah, I guess that's one of the downsides of having a really uncommon name. I like to use nicknames. It's just a lot easier too. Um, think about images. Oh yeah, stuff like if you just post an image, if you take an image with your phone, like for example your iPhone, there's exit data on there. It'll actually tell them what latitude and longitude you took that picture. It'll say the information. So actually, that's was it McAfee, the owner of McAfee, got detected, got found in some South American country because one of the bloggers, their friends, posted a picture of them like together. There he was like writing from the government and stuff. But the blogger posted like an image without clearing up the exit data, and so that's how the government like tracked him and blocked him from stopped him from leaving the country and stuff. I think was it McAfee? I'm not sure. Maybe I could be defaming someone, and I wouldn't even know. uh, So LinkedIn, social media, don't post your social on Discord, on the Discord about me, right? A lot of people do this. They put their like their social media on the about me, and you can do it if you don't really care. It really depends on your personal values. But if you're really concerned, if you're at high risk, why do this? Make multiple accounts, like make a separate online facade account if you really, 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 really want to like put yourself out there, I guess under anonymous identity. You just really crave the attention. Oh, sorry. I'm not talking crap about people who do that. Uh, yeah, yeah. It expired. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, if you were someone like who were malicious, right? Then you'd have all the information.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, I like to use Discord a lot because I use it personally. But I guess like if you use TikTok, a lot of people post their like Snapchat. I guess well Snapchat doesn't really like there's not much information. Oh well, actually Snapchat map, right?
Did you?
Yeah, that could give away your literal house. I mean, you can just zoom in into the person and it'll just screenshot that thing and go like, hey, this is where I live. This is where you live. Actually, what I did for like a couple of months, I realized it wasn't really like imperative to me. Like it wasn't really something I really needed. But I had a burner phone for like three months. I used a prepaid phone. Well, yeah, prepaid. I used Mint Mobile. Like it gave me like 4 GB, like $20 a month. So it was like really not bad. And like I'm actually under like a postpaid plan under Verizon, like paying like $100+ per month for downgraded unlimited data. Unlimited, but like really you're capped at like kilobits per second. And so like I don't ever use my data. I just use wireless. And if I do use data, like my YouTube's capped at like 320p. I literally cannot go like watch anything higher than that or something. Um, and then my internet just loading a simple web page is super slow because sometimes images themselves are like 4 MB. And that takes a hot couple of seconds to load if you have kilobits per second. Yeah. So for web services, this is what I like to do. I actually have my own domain name, and I use it personally. I use a wildcard, so every email that goes to that domain gets redirected to my Gmail account. So what I use, I have my own domain. So what I go like put my name, then I put a dot or whatever I want, and then I put like their service name. So if I do get spam emails, I see okay bad email. Okay, so where is my email getting leaked? I know that's this service that's leaking my email, and I just unsubscribe. I give them bad ratings on Better Business Brew.